It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and Tan.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. I'm the TanMan. I'm here with BG. He is back on the air. Glad to have him. We want to thank everybody who tuned in last week. If you didn't, you missed out on quite the treat. And we want to remind you, we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Spreaker, everywhere where we could possibly be consumed. We are there. Breaking news, Argentina has defeated Nigeria 2-1. Marcos Rojo's late winner sends Argentina into the last 16. BG, does that do it for you? Are you excited?
Absolutely
not. The Argentinians have made it
I could
to
not
the round
care
of
less.
16. Woo!
Even if I were a soccer fan, which I'm not, the U.S. isn't in it. Why is anybody on?
We had to buy our way into a World Cup, and even that's not for like 8 more years.
Hornets draft.
It's terrible. Terrible.
Let's talk about the Hornets draft.
Hornets draft, NBA talk. BG, a lot of folks, a lot of folks weren't too keen on it. When the pick comes out and it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, put my hands on my head and say, no, because who's the man that they compared him to as his B tape is rolling through and showing the highlights? Who's the man they compared him to? Michael Carter Williams, literally like the worst player in the league. Well, they turn around, they flip that in a move that I love.
They sent him, get this, see if you get it. They sent him back.
Good, that's where he belongs.
Back. Because he's got a bad back.
Who? Who has a bad back?
The kid that they drafted.
No. You're talking about Porter Jr. They drafted Gilgeous-Alexander. No, they sent him out to L.A., picked up a couple extra picks, and they came away with Miles Bridges from Michigan State. Later on in the second round, they select Devontae Graham, and then guy from Germany. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce his name, and you'll probably never see him anyway. So let's focus on the Miles Bridges.
Well, the first draft pick in the NBA is kind of the one that matters,
right?
I mean, the other guys.
The kid from Germany will probably stay over there for a couple years, and by the time
he's got 2 more years on his contract.
So by the time he comes over here, he'll probably be on another team. So like I said, we'll stay on Bridges and Devontae Graham. BG, I'm giving this one 2 thumbs up. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Tell me why.
I think Miles Bridges, he's not as tall as Draymond Green. A Jay Billis term here, wingspan. Wingspan is not as long as you'd like for somebody that's going to play out there on the wing. But I think he's just one of these he's just a basketball player. He's just kind of one of all these jack of all trades, master of none kind of guys. I think he's got, a little bit of that extra in him. He stayed in college for another year. He could have come out last year and basically been drafted the same spot he was, but he wanted to go back. He did improve his game. He became a little bit better of a shooter, and so I think, you got the kid Gilchrist out there on the wing now. Everybody's not really happy with his contract. His offensive game hasn't come around. And I think this is the perfect replacement for him.
How do you explain Bridges not working out for the Hornets and seemingly being surprised by the draft pick himself? How do you? Does that not make you feel bad about what's going on in Charlotte? Miscommunication like that? Or am I reading too much into that?
I don't get caught up in the whole. I think it's crazy. Maybe he thought, I saw some mock drafts that had him coming up a little bit later on. I don't really like the idea of not working out for teams. Now, there's no reason for DeAndre Ayton to work out for the Hornets.
Right.
But you heard it a lot with Memphis. Guys like they weren't working out for Memphis. They weren't giving out their medical records. I don't really know what the reasoning behind that would be. But does it make me uncomfortable? Nah.
Okay.
Now,
so you don't think it means that Charlotte had a plan that didn't work out or changed their mind at the last minute and just grabbed this kid?
Nah.
Okay. Because that's the way it could have seemed to me. I don't know enough about it.
I'm much happier I'm much happier with the pick than if they had kept Gilgeous-Alexander.
All right, well, Scott Fowler, who's a columnist for the Charlotte Observer, this is why I got mixed up. Because he thinks they should have taken Porter Jr.
Okay.
And his reasoning is that because of the kid's back being an issue, and you have a limited amount of film, but I went back and watched his high school film, which is readily available on the interwebs. And I sort of see the guy's point. Fowler's point is this kid, he could have been a strikeout, right? You could have just missed on him. He could have been Greg Oden. Or he could have been a home run. And he said, basically his point is, and the Hornets need a home run. And just, these are my words now, but taking the baseball analogy a little further, Miles Bridges, I think in his opinion, is more like hitting a single with nobody on and 2 outs. Now, he's a hit, but he's not what you need. He's not going to, and you and I had this conversation, sort of texting back and forth. I know what you're saying. You're saying the Hornets' main problem right now are the fact that they can't get rid of the players they need to get rid of because of contract situations. They weren't going to fix all that with one draft.
No.
But
which is why I like the Miles Bridges pick. You're not going to fix all that stuff with. Well,
let me ask you this
one
then:
pick.
do you think then? Are you saying that you think the Hornets? And we've had this conversation too. What is their actual goal? Right? Like we talked about this back near the end of the season. Are they trying to be competitive? Are they trying to put themselves in position to win a title? And that might be laughable, but again, you're not going to win a title if that's not even your goal. Do you feel like drafting Miles Bridges is a nod in the direction of we're just trying to get a stable team here right now?
I think they're just trying to lay a foundation for later on down the road. I get my man's point here where he talks about Porter Jr.
Right.
Before Marvin Bagley reclassified into this year's NCAA class, you know who the number one player coming out into this year's college freshman group was? It was Michael Porter Jr. If they had allowed high school kids to enter the draft, he would have entered the draft last year, and he would have been a top 5 pick in the draft last year. I mean, the kid's potential is, it's amazing. He could be a star in this league.
The kid's potential is the ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the roof, but he's got a bad back.
Yeah,
and he's like 20 years old.
And to be fair, Mitch Kupchak just basically came out and said that. I loved his candor because typically a head office guy in any professional sport isn't even going to talk about a player they didn't draft, but he just came out and said it. They kept peppering him with questions, and he finally said not only about Porter but about Alexander too. And about Porter, he just said, "Look, we looked at the guy." He's a great talent. We didn't feel comfortable with his health
and that's
situation.
it. These guys go. They go and interview with the teams, and the teams want to get their doctors to get their hands on them. And everybody's gonna have a different opinion of what they think about his back and how he is going to come back from that. The reports were that if Denver had not selected him at 15. Washington wasn't touching him at 15.
Right.
So he was gonna continue to fall down that board. I think he was a perfect pick for Denver at 14. They're on the verge of being in the playoffs. They've got a lot of young, good players. They just are getting ready to lock up their star big man Jokic for 5 years. I think if you give Porter a redshirt year and you sit him down, and maybe they've hit the home run, but for Charlotte, I completely disagree with this guy.
What's Kid Gilchrist's contract like? Do we know that? I
think he's got a couple more years left on it. He's got a couple more. But no, they didn't need to hit a home run. They just needed to get a kid who can play. And I think Miles Bridges is that. He's going to be able to play
and I think
right away.
We've talked about this. This is the school of thought of the San Antonio Spurs we've got going on here now.
Which is kind of what they're doing up there.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. The one thing you can say about this draft is they ended up with, well, let's say 2 players who are probably going to end up wearing teal and purple. Okay? Mm-hmm. And more picks than they started off with. So they got 2 guys and picks in the next 2 drafts. If they're able to do what the Spurs have done with those picks, that's great news for Charlotte.
And I told you on draft night, I said they The Spurs have made a living finding guys late in the first round, in the second round, developing them, which is what Borrego is going to be tasked to do, is develop some of these younger players that when you look at the current roster in Charlotte, Kid Gilchrist, Frank Kaminsky, Cody Zeller to some extent.
Yeah.
Really, all the young guys that they brought in, other than Kemba Walker.
And Nick Batum.
Well, but the young guys they brought in, other than Kemba Walker, haven't developed. I mean, it just is what it is.
Some of them's best season was their rookie year.
Right. And so, the two guys in Bridges and Devontae Graham, again, Graham's a 4-year guy at Kansas. He was supposed to, the story's well known, he was committed to Appalachian State. Winds up at Kansas, takes over for Player of the Year in Frank Mason. He's the starting point guard last year, led Kansas to the Final Four. I love those 4-year college guys, BG.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's going to be a terrific backup point guard in the league.
Okay, so does them not taking SGA, well, they did take him, but keeping him,
Sugar.
Does that mean that Kemba is staying?
Does it mean he's staying? No. And it's one of my names to talk about, but no, I don't think it's a guaranteed deal he's staying.
What's with all the language? Like what? I mean, they could just stay quiet.
Well, I mean, people want to know.
No, but I'm saying why all the Kemba's going to be here till he retires if we can help it. We want to lock him up long. Well, what is all that if we think he's leaving? Because I think he's leaving.
Well, to me, it's about, at this point, it's about trying to maximize the hand that you have. Because
Gotcha.
We've talked about it. I think they've overplayed their hand a little bit. I think they should have dealt him back in February.
But this
they
is
didn't.
a different day.
Yeah, it's a different day. But he didn't get drafted in February. He's still there. Everybody knows he's got 1 year left. You got to say, man, we want him to stay here forever. You got to keep driving that price up.
But if you knew for a fact before draft night, and obviously they know what their intentions were, you don't think SGA was the best pick, no matter what you're doing at point guard?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not. When I forget the guy on ESPN, the NBA guy on ESPN that was part of the draft coverage, but to me, this told me all I needed to know when they rolled his tape and gave an NBA comparison to these top guys, and his NBA comparison was Michael Carter-Williams. I was done, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't high on him to begin with. I said last week.
That is one guy's opinion.
Well, it is, but I said last week he started the year off on the bench in Kentucky. He was coming off the bench. He came on strong late in the year, but to me, if I'm going to draft you that high, I know you come in there. I know he came in with a lot of talent at Kentucky, but if I'm going to draft him this high, this dude should have been starting from day one. Like don't give me 5 weeks of really, really good basketball, man. If you're gonna be that dude, like Trae Young, getting drafted, that Trae Young started from day one, being the man up there. DeAndre Ayton was the man from day one. Bagley was the man from day one.
And I'm not even sold on Trae Young at this level, but
maybe
that's another
I'm not
conversation.
Either. All right, BG, Friday, we will know what LeBron James is going to do.
We will
not
know
where he'll go.
We will know the future of the NBA for the next 10 years.
Not where he will go, per se, necessarily, but
whether he will
go, as he's got to opt out by the 29th. Free agency in the NBA starts July 1st. So we got a list of about 5 guys here who could be on the move. So we'll start where it all starts. The fulcrum of the NBA. LeBron James. BG, where is he at next year?
Well, I'm going to do something sort of unusual here. I don't know that a lot of people agree with me, but I think he's going to be in Cleveland. I think he's going to come back for 1 more year. I think he's going to sign one of those 1-and-1 contracts. If you look at the age of his children, where they are in school, he's hinted several times that family is 50% of his decision, winning's the other 50%. And it's not as if they didn't win.
No.
And a lot of it has been made of his relationship with Dan Gilbert, but Gilbert's been willing to spend money. In fact, he's spent more than anybody in the NBA.
No, you can't. The one thing you can't say about Dan Gilbert as an owner is that he's cheap. He's not cheap. I don't
think LeBron wants to be in Cleveland next season, but I think he comes back for one more year and then opts out of that second year on the 1-1.
That's my I agree with you. I don't think he's got to sign. I don't think he's going to sign the 1-1 though. I think he's just going to opt into his year in Cleveland. Because I think maybe there's a part of him that wants to be in LA. He's got a lot of outside interest outside of the game of basketball. LA's kind of the focal point for all those things. But his son's not in high school yet. He's going into the 8th grade.
His son also he missed a dunk the other day by about 3 inches.
I think that it makes the most sense because you hear all these NBA insiders talk about how there's no perfect fit around the league, right? Philadelphia is not a perfect fit for him because Ben Simmons can't shoot. Houston has got to do a lot of cap gymnastics to get him in down there. LA, right now, it could change, but right now there's nothing there that would make you think they would be able to compete for an NBA title next year. To me, what makes the most sense is for him to just go ahead and opt into his $35 or $38 million, whatever it is, next year, and hit unrestricted free agency next summer, when you could possibly team up and go someplace like Miami with Dwayne Wade with Kawhi Leonard.
And that's what I was going to say. And you talked about this some last week when I wasn't here, but Kawhi is all part of this. They're like linked together, and Kawhi's contract.
And the problem is Kawhi has to stay wherever he is or wherever San Antonio wants him to go for one more year. So that's why, to me, it makes sense for LeBron to just opt in Cleveland and punt on the whole free agency
and
for one more year.
And that's the thing about Kawhi. It almost doesn't make any sense for anybody to sign him. I mean, I know he wants out, but I saw one quote that why would the Lakers sign him now when they can just sign him next year as a free agent and not have to renegotiate his contract?
All right, well, that brings us right, perfect radio segue right there, BG.
Thank you, sir.
Great job. That brings us right to our next guy, in Paul George. LA took that same stance last summer with Paul George.
True.
Why would we trade for him? Why would we give you anything of value for him when we can just sign him? Well, now, Royce Young, the Oklahoma City Thunder reporter for ESPN,
didn't put together a package for George either.
Well, they I think if they had called Indiana and they had thrown in the number 2 pick in the draft, Paul George would be a Laker today.
Well,
but they didn't. They tried to throw that. They tried to throw that Nets pick in there. Now it turned into Kyle Kuzma, which is turns out is going to be a pretty good player.
Right.
But they were trying to lowball Indiana, and Indiana finally just said no. Okay, we're going to take the Oladipo and Sabonis deal. They took that same stance last year. Now Royce Young is reporting that there's a growing sense around the league that Paul George is going to stay in Oklahoma City. I said it at the beginning of the year. I think that was a bad move by LA not to go out and get Paul George when they could have, and I think Paul George stays in Oklahoma City next year.
I think it's a 50-50 toss-up with him. I think there's a good chance he likes being there. How do you feel about Paul George to Philadelphia? I mean, he's out there. I mean, he may stay, but he's on the market. They know they need one more player. I mean, we all know they need one more player to go with Embiid and Simmons.
They need one more dude, yeah.
He would fit that like a glove.
I just question whether or not he would want to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I think him going to Philadelphia might make Philadelphia the best team in the East. But you also have to remember Boston is going to bring back Kyrie Irving next year and Gordon Hayward.
Sure.
To me, George comes down to LA and OKC though.
Okay.
Just kind of like LeBron, all the different. But to me, it's LA or Cleveland. I think we're all going to be kind of disappointed with this free agent class and this all the moving and shit. I don't know if there's going to be. I think Paul George stays in OKC.
Well, let me go ahead and just keep raining on the parade with our next guy. I think Chris Paul stays in Houston. He's 32 years old. I don't
Well, here's the thing with Chris Paul.
And I'm assuming that all these other people stay in place, which really limits his options.
Well, and that's the thing with Paul is when he got traded to Houston, if you remember, he didn't sign a new deal. He opted into the last deal of the last year of his contract.
Right.
So the LA could get something for him other than him just walking. And there was kind of a handshake, wink, wink. We're going to take care of you on the flip side with Houston. I think the ownership group has changed since then. And what they're saying now is this new group is not as keen on giving Chris Paul that supermax deal where he's going to get $38 million. I don't know. Chris Paul's a toss-up, man.
Yeah.
If Paul goes to L.A., if Paul were to go out to Los Angeles, I think that would kind of open the door for LeBron to head out there, but they'd have to move Lonzo Ball first.
I'm like, see, that's how I am with Kawhi. That's how I am with Kawhi.
I'm kind of stuck on Chris Paul. I'm like you. I think eventually they get the deal done. I think I don't know if he gets his supermax deal because they've still got to pay Clint Capella, but it just makes sense for Chris Paul to stay in Houston and take another stab at it.
Chris Paul seems like the kind of guy who would be more willing than some NBA players to admit to himself privately, this is who I am now. Am I wrong?
Well, look.
He sells insurance for a living in the offseason. I mean, he puts on that little mustache, but still, I mean, he's got a sense of humor.
They were, they had two cracks at taking down the King, and they were a Chris Paul hamstring injury away from maybe being NBA champions. I think it would be foolish on his part to walk away from that over a few bucks. Now, even if he doesn't get the deal he thought he was going to get, he's not playing for the league minimum. I think it'd be silly of him to walk away from a potential title.
You say it's a toss-up for Chris Paul. See, that's how I feel about Kawhi Leonard. Every scenario I can come up with him, none of them make any sense. I actually think the most likely thing is that he doesn't play basketball for anybody and becomes a professional soccer player. It doesn't make sense for him to stay in San Antonio because he wants out.
Do you think it makes sense for San Antonio to move on from him, though?
Well, that's where you get into this whole thing of what is their parameter for making this decision? Is it a financial decision? Is it a locker room culture decision? Because he's obviously become, this feels crazy to say, but Kawhi Leonard has obviously become a problem in that locker room.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And you never thought, that's the one phrase that you never would have thought would have uttered, but no, it's clearly a problem.
I think Trammell said it 2 weeks ago. You could tell it all season. Those guys weren't even talking about him. They were, it was weird.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like last year. Remember when toward the end of the season we started talking about the Patriots? And is there drama between? And we were like, this feels so strange.
This is not right.
But how much do those two franchises have in common? Everything. They're
basically the same.
They're the same franchise in two different sports, and here we are having the same weird discussion. Kawhi, who has this reputation for just being the most level-headed team player, maybe he's just tired of it. No, it doesn't make sense for them to bring him back, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense for the Lakers to sign him, unless we're saying the same thing you just said about Chris Paul last season.
Yeah.
Right? Paul George last season.
I find it difficult to close my eyes and picture Kawhi Leonard anywhere but San Antonio.
I'm the same way.
To me, it's one of those things that just doesn't make sense. I said last week or week before, one of the two, in my heart of hearts, I believe that Greg Popovich can get in a room. They're going to be able to hash this out. Maybe making a pitch for LeBron James. Maybe that works. To me, that's kind of like throwing some stuff to the wall and seeing what sticks at this point. But Pop went to San Diego, and he had his meeting with Kawhi Leonard. And reports are that it didn't go well, that Leonard, usually when Greg Popovich walks around and tells you something, it's going to happen. And Kawhi Leonard sat across the table from him and looked at him and said, I want out. So if he doesn't want to be there, I think San Antonio is going to deal him. I don't think they're dealing him to L.A. I think they'll throw the finger up at the Lakers.
They basically said they're not trading him to the West, right? They just came out and said
they're going to throw it. I don't know. To me, there's no telling where Kawhi could wind up this upcoming year. Anybody who makes a half-decent offer, I think, could have him, because if they know that he's going to leave, I mean, this isn't a middle-of-the-road player.
Well,
this is a franchise player. You cannot leave for nothing.
For the 1 year, you could keep him. Unfortunately, now it feels sort of like diminishing returns.
Right. If he's not going to stay there, then there's absolutely no reason to keep him. I think Kawhi could literally wind up anywhere in the league.
On the East. Probably in the East. Unless...
look, I don't even think it's a trade him to the West thing. I think it's just a not trading him to the Lakers thing.
Okay.
Maybe the Clippers. I don't know. He said he would be fine with the Clippers, but I think it's just I'm not trading him to the Lakers thing.
I would love to know what went wrong. Something rubbed him the wrong way. And chances are we're not really going to ever find out. Kind of like the Patriots stuff. 20 years from now there'll be a Patriots 30 for 30, but it won't be for a long time. So that leads us to the hometown
The
kid.
last man on the list,
Kemba Walker.
Kemba Walker. My gut tells me that they're going to overplay this hand again. And if Walker gets dealt, it'll be at the trade deadline. But right now, Mitch is saying all the right things. I just don't know if there's a real path. When you say we want to build around Kemba Walker, I just don't know if the timelines match up.
I agree with you. But what also doesn't match up is the language coming out of Kupchak's mouth and the numbers on Kemba's contract. I mean, in a lot of ways, it would be absolutely nuts to keep him. It would be nuts.
To keep him next year, going forward, it's going to cost you double what he's making now.
And he's gone anyway.
He's making like 12 now. It's going to cost you 24, 25, 28 next year.
I mean, are we pretty clear on the fact that he's either gone before next season or he's gone after next season?
Yeah, I don't think he stays.
I don't think they can re-sign him. I don't think they can afford to re-sign him given what they're trying to do.
The story came out, I think yesterday or today, Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram for Kemba Walker. You taking that deal?
I would have to look at the contracts.
I don't worry about it. Ball's on a rookie deal. He's on a rookie deal for 3 more seasons.
Yes.
Ingram's on a rookie deal for 2 more seasons.
Just 2-to-1, money being equal, I would take the deal.
I don't know if I like Lonzo Ball like that though.
Well, no, I mean he's no Kemba Walker.
I love Ingram. I love getting Ingram in that deal.
Look, that's really what's pushing me over. But the thing is, though, that Michael Jordan famously said, I think this season, that they wouldn't trade him for anything less than an All-Star.
That's what he said.
And
mentioned Kawhi Leonard by name.
Cleveland is a thing.
That's the ding 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 ding.
But
I think he
Sexton's never been an All-Star.
I
know, but that to me is where he goes.
I think he winds up in Cleveland.
I think before
the year's over, I think Walker's in Cleveland.
And I'll tell you what,
that's going to be their pitch to try and get LeBron to stay.
And I'll tell you this, maybe people think I'm crazy because Kyrie's always played in a big market, but 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Kemba Walker's a baller, people. He is a baller.
Well, he's kind of a poor man's Kyrie, is what he's been compared to. I've heard. I heard some people, on the inside, have said that he does a lot of the same things as Kyrie does.
I'm
He's
a
just
Kemba
not
Walker
quite as good.
fan. I know we make the mistake as fans sometimes of feeling like we know these guys. Back in the day, I always thought the Road Warriors seemed like really nice guys. It turns out they're weren't.
Probably not.
They beat up guys in the ring I didn't know that. It didn't seem that way on TV, but
it looked like it.
Right, it looked like they were being friendly to the Mulkeys. But anyway, so I realize we can be way off about these guys. But to me, Kemba, in my heart, he just seems like a nice kid who deserves something better than what he's had in Charlotte the past few years. I'd like to see him have a chance to win one.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I might could be enticed on the Lonzo for Brandon Ingram deal.
No, I could be. I
might could be enticed. All right, everyone. We want to thank you for joining in. We want to welcome back BG. Thanks for coming back on the show. I thought you forgot about us. I thought you were ready to quit the show, start your own show, and try to put me out of business. So I'm glad that you returned.
I have no comment on that. I'm not going to even no, because
I heard the rumors swirling around that you were pitching another podcast idea with some fellas locally.
To be honest with you, I would really rather be doing a live play-by-play on the World Cup right now, but it turns out no one wants to listen to that. So I'm stuck talking about sports that people quote care about, like football and basketball.
Yeah. Stupid World Cup.
And we are going to get back to baseball, right? I don't want our Braves fans thinking that
let's hear from some Braves fans.
Let
the Braves fans tell us they want to hear from us, and we'll get back into it.
We're going to talk about baseball again.
Never. The Tar Heels blew it. No more baseball.
I knew that's what was happening. I thought you guys were going to show us Gamecock fans how to beat Arkansas. Turns out you didn't even get to play Arkansas, but that's okay. It happens.
Nobody likes you. All right, guys, that's it. We are out of here. Again, follow us on Twitter at The Border War. I'm dealing with children here. I'm not going to give out your Twitter handle. Just tweet me. TanMan3264. A juvenile. A child.
Bye.
Dealing with children.